Hi, everybody. Missing due dates is a problem that every student faces sooner or later. Different teachers handle it in different ways. Obviously, it's really important to be aware of an instructor's late work policy. You can often find it in the course syllabus. This will help you make decisions about how you should prioritize your efforts. My policy is that I do not deduct any points or credit for work turned in late. It doesn't matter how late it's turned in, it still receives full credit. This often gets some raised eyebrows from other teachers. I know that there's concern that it promotes a lack of responsibility and that the amount of work handed in at the end of the term must be overwhelming. I'll admit it gets more than a little hairy, but it's important to me. I believe that the best way to get better at doing something is to practice doing that thing. And the things that I ask students to practice or to demonstrate are not only skills that are addressed in our state standards, they're also skills that I personally believe are important. They help us relate to and understand others, and to make ourselves and our ideas understandable to others. So, I want students to do the work. And once I stop offering credit for it, fewer students will do it. So, I continue to offer credit for as long as I am confident that I can follow through on it. Here's how I manage it. First of all, I check all of the work for completion and enter it into my paper gradebook as collected or incomplete. Completed work gets a small check mark in the color of the assignment on the paper gradebook. I use a different color for each assignment for two reasons. First of all, it helps me easily see which assignment I'm working with. I also try to alternate between warmer and cooler colors. If I have orange next to red or pink, it's easier to get them mixed up. Second, I just really like my bright pens. It makes grading just a little bit less tedious. If an assignment hasn't been completed correctly, the student typed out questions and didn't answer them, or turned in a blank document, or if it hasn't been turned in at all, it gets a slash mark through the box in brown. I first started off using red to mark assignments late, but as I noted earlier, it's difficult to distinguish that from an assignment marked in orange or pink. That's why I switched to brown instead of black. It's easier to tell it apart from dark blue. Once I've done that, which doesn't take long, I use my paper gradebook to enter it as collected or incomplete in the computer gradebook. Any grade of incomplete gets averaged in as a 0. And if you're at all familiar with statistics or just, basic arithmetic, you know that on a typical percentile grade scale, zeros will really tank the average. This is what incentivizes students to actually get their work turned in. They see their average take a sudden hit, and that acts as a reminder to complete the assignment. If I just leave it blank and change it to a 0 at the end of the marking period, they don't have that reminder. And instead, their average drops when they don't have a chance to do anything about it. And I want them to do the work. It's not just work for its own sake. The assignments I create are designed to help students practice valuable skills that improve their communication and critical thinking. Even aside from what grade they receive in the class, I want them to get better at those skills because I believe that those skills matter. However, in order to make such generous late work policy possible, I do require students to follow my late work procedure to have their work evaluated and entered into the gradebook. Step 1 is that once they've completed the work and turned it in, they send me an email from their school account to my school account. The subject line says late work. In the body of the email, they include the title of the unit. That's so that I can find their work on Google Classroom. They include the title of the assignment, so I know I have the right one, and the due date in the online gradebook, so I can find it there. Each assignment needs to be sent to me in a separate email. This helps me keep track of how much late work is being turned in. One email equals one assignment. It's pretty straightforward. Step 2 is my first response. I email them back by the next business day with the following response. Thank you for letting me know. I will get this graded and in the online gradebook as soon as I can. Please be patient and check the late work page on the class website for updates. Then I file their email in a special directory, the late work folder, with a subfolder for that particular course. I also mark it as unread, even though I've already read it. This lets me know that it still needs further action. The late work page on the class website has the directions on how to inform me that they've turned in an assignment that's past the due date. but it also sets my overall timeline. I grade late work as soon as I can, but I grade work turned in on time first, followed by late work in the order I received it. The late work page also has a line that I update whenever I enter grades for late work into the online gradebook. Any assignment that received an email reply from me prior to this date should be current in the system. Please email me if this is not the case. Step 3 is about setting precedent and managing expectations. At the beginning of the term, there isn't a backlog of late work because there aren't a lot of assignments. However, I am absolutely diligent about replying to emails asking for more information if they didn't email me correctly the first time, even though I can probably figure out which assignment they're talking about and look the due date up myself. If I don't do that from the start, then once we get later in the term and there are more assignments and some of them have similar names, it becomes so much more difficult to manage. Likewise, if there are only 3 assignments in the system and they turn the third one in late, all of a sudden their grade drops from an A to an F. Students don't like this. The adults who are legally responsible for those students also don't like this. I get questions. Sometimes, less pleasantly, I get accusations that they've turned in work and I haven't graded it. My response is, first, please forward me the reply that you got back from me telling you that I'd received the first email. I don't see it in my email folder with the others. Surprise, surprise. Often, I get an email that tells me that they've actually turned work in. Oops. Sometimes it's just, how soon will such and such assignment be in the system? To which I just copy-paste the bit from the late work page. I grade late work as soon as I can. However, I grade work turned in on time first, followed by late work in the order I received it. To this I add, in order to be able to offer a generous late policy, I need students to be patient with me so that I can evaluate all work fairly. Remember, you won't lose any points for it being turned in late, and you can check the late work page to see what I'm currently grading and where I'm at. That way, late in the term, they aren't expecting immediate turnaround when there's a lot that's been turned in late, on top of the regular work. Step 4 is actually getting work evaluated, marked on the paper gradebook, and then entered into the online system. My order of precedence is replying to student emails, marking current assignments, and then going on to late assignments. The goal is to have current assignments entered within a week and late work entered within 2 weeks. But there's definitely some ebb and flow, just depending on what I'm working with. I grade late work by going through the email folder for that class, finding the oldest unread email, and opening it up. Based on the information in that email, I go to that assignment and evaluate it, including feedback on the assignment itself, and then enter the grade. Step 5 is a second notification. I reply to this email with the message, please check the feedback on the assignment. The online gradebook has been updated. Please check to make sure that it is showing up correctly. Thank you for turning in your work. Then I go back to the late work folder and on to the next unread message. I want to emphasize that I do not delete the email when I'm done with it. Now, it's marked as read, which tells me that I'm finished with that task, but I leave it in the folder in case I need to go back to it. When I'm going through late work, I try to get through all the emails that have a certain date. Then I go back to the class website, go to the late work page and update it to say, any assignment that received an email reply from me prior to this date should be current in the system. Please email me if this is not the case. Toward the end of the term, about 6 weeks out or so, I let students know that they will have a guarantee deadline, which will be 2 to 3 weeks before the end of the term. I tell them that this will be the last date by which I will be able to guarantee that I can get their work reviewed, graded, and in the computer before the system locks all grades as final. I put this date on the board, and I regularly have students tell me what it is and what it means. I remind them that I will absolutely continue to take work after that and that I will do my best to get it graded in the system, but that I just don't want to make any promises I'm not certain that I can keep. I've been developing this procedure for about 5 years, and through all that time, I've never had a student complain about that deadline. They understand that it isn't punitive or arbitrary, it's just based on reasonable capability and my own integrity, and hopefully, I guess they respect that. The last few weeks of the term definitely involve me busting my tail to get students' work evaluated, with feedback that helps them understand why they got the score they did, and getting as much of it into the online system as possible. But To me, it's worth it. If you're a teacher, I would love to know what your late policy is and why it's set that way. If you're a student, or if you've been a student, I'd love to read a story about a time when you were either helped or hurt by a late policy. So leave me a comment, and I'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.